My name is Maggie McAlpine, and I'm the Cyber Engagement Lead here at the Center for Threat Informed Defense at MITRE Engenuity. And with me today is Douglas Santos, the Director of Advanced Threat Intelligence at Fortinet. Douglas, thank you for joining us today.
No, my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you. So to just dive into our questions, as you know, Fortinet was recently participating with the center on a project known as Summiting the Pyramid. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that project as an organization.
So I'll start talking a little bit before of the project. How did I end up in this role, right? So Fortinet, specifically Derek, which is my leader in Fortinet, he understood that the work that was being done by the center was absolutely important in understanding the things that we needed to do as an industry to move forward in advancing the state of the art of threat intelligence, right? Tools, standards, reporting, everything plays a role when creating an environment that is, how can I say, that is efficient in absorbing threat intelligence and quickly operationalizing it. So my role was created at that time so I could be heavily focused on understanding the projects that were being put out on the center and understanding which ones would actually gonna benefit Fortinet the most. So this role was created, and it's one of my most pressing responsibilities to be close with the center, understanding the projects, and being kind of like an MITRE evangelist for Fortinet, because we know cybersecurity is a huge field, and there's so many things, so many standards, so many standards bodies putting out very meaningful standards, tools. And at that time, Derek understood that if we didn't have someone who was actually responsible for absorbing all that output, right, from MITRE and being the bridge, trying to evangelize the use of MITRE internally, we will get left behind, right? So this is why I'm here, and this is what I'm doing, right? So I'm close to you guys, and I'm very happy to be where I am, because I think that the work that the center is doing is immensely impactful.
Well, thank you for that. And we're obviously very happy to have you. So speaking a little bit to the projects of Summiting the Pyramid, what was the industry challenge as you see it that Summiting was addressing?
So one thing that we saw is that historically the attacks were very quick to change their hashes, their infrastructure, sometimes even the tools, but the TTPs, they rarely change, right? But that has been that hasn't been the case for almost a year. So we've seen that adversaries are very quick at changing their techniques, right? The procedural level implementation of a technique, so that specific analytics that were deployed kind of like a year ago were getting evaded, right? So it was extremely important to develop a methodology to understand how robust the analytic that we're using actually is, right? Because it is one thing to, oh, I'm actually analyzing this threat, and I understand that it is doing lateral movement using this specific command line or API call. But that doesn't mean that it will stop the attack if they move up into the OS level or the driver level. So developing that methodology so we could understand where we are in terms of how robust our analytics are, it's one of the most important things we can do, right? So that was what prompted it.
Absolutely. And so how would you see that somebody solves that problem? Like, how does it help practitioners, and who do you see as its target audience?
So the target audience is basically the people who are responsible for putting out analytics in CM platforms, EDR platforms, sometimes even NDR, right? So they have to understand that if they are, because they are working with the reverse engineers and the researchers to understand, okay, what is this threat? What is it doing? and then they get that output from the reversing team, say, okay, you have to build an analytic to capture this behavior. But this specific behavior, it can be implemented in various ways, right? Using different uh, things in the environment or in the OS or in the operating system, drivers and kernel, right? So having a methodology so that when this specific person within Fortinet and any other company is developing that analytic and being able to score that analytic to see how robust it is, I mean, it changes the game because we're making sure that if we're ever going to have to reassess that analytic, it's not going to be as soon as we were used, right? So it's giving us more breathing room so that we are sure that the work that we're putting to develop analytic to detect a specific technique, it's going to last longer, basically.
And how does Fortinet specifically plan to leverage and apply this work, or how would you say the work is best applied?
We're already leveraging it. So once we were participating on the project, I got a couple of the product managers for NDR to join and actually give some of their analytics and understand how would they going to be leveraging that specific methodology to validate the analytic, right? So it's another, we can see that it's another step in the quality assurance process of that analytic, right? So it's strengthening the capability of our products to actually be more how can I say, more effective and more resilient to procedural changes of techniques.
Pivoting just a little bit from the project itself and
Mhm.
more to the partnership between Fortinet and the
Mhm.
Center for developing this project. As you know, the center has a somewhat unique approach to collaborative R&D.
Mhm.
What did the collaboration look like on summiting?
So we did a few rounds of exchanging of the analytics. So there are a couple of products that a couple of projects in MITRE that we really need the product managers to be involved. And summiting the pyramid was one, because I'm one guy who's actually trying to get interest from inside Fortinet to participate. So collaboration on this specific project was mainly done by the product managers because they hold the analytics, they hold the specific rules which they are using to trigger on specific behaviors. So I was able to convince them to get them on board, and I think it was one of the projects in which we have collaborated more deeply, just because we had this specific person from a product management from the product management team actually joining the calls for summiting the pyramid, sharing specific challenges and roadblocks that he had when he was trying to create more robust analytics. So, from my perspective, it was one of the projects in which we had collaborated the most, seeing all the other projects, right? So it was very, very enriching for both of us, both for me and for the product management team. Yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. Sort of digging a little further into that, how was your participation in the center expanded your goals at Fortinet, and how has it helped Fortinet expand on its expertise and capabilities? Would you say?
Oh, a lot, a lot. So being able to connect, right, both worlds, because MITRE is heavily focused on pushing the bar when it comes to what we can do in terms of threat intelligence. So you guys have incredible capabilities and incredible vision for what is needed to move forward to change the game on the adversary, and being able to present that and actually bring the product management team into this world, right? Because they are heavily focused on features and bugs and driving the product forward, and sometimes they're too much focus, right? So being able to get them into this world, specifically this, because it's one thing to oh, MITRE has put out a new MITRE ATT&CK version. Oh, they navigate to the website, they get some resources, and they try to make sense of what it is and what it is doing, and embed that into the product. The other thing is having them actually inside developing the project, understanding their limitations, understanding where they can do better. It's invaluable from my perspective.
Well, we're very pleased to hear it. I think we have time for just one more
Mm-hmm.
question. So one aspect of the center's approach is that as the projects are completed,
Mm-hmm.
they're made freely available to the
Mm-hmm.
world. Why and how is supporting that kind of investment in the community resources valuable for you at Fortinet and the larger community?
So for Fortinet, I think it's a no-brainer, right? Because we're constantly striving to make our products better and making sure that we're aligning with the standards that are being developed by the industry. So you guys and other standards vendors, make sure that we are able to interoperate and respond in a standardized way, which means there's going to be less friction in the threat response, right? So the most important aspect of our participation on the center. So being able to be more effective in responding to threats is the number one thing. So I've started my life in open source like 20 plus years ago, and I think that the community and the open source aspect is the strength in numbers, right? Because if you make this available to the community, different persons from different backgrounds. I mean, anyone who's actually interested in that specific area is going to be able to look at that, understand from their perspective, propose changes, use that in their own environment to their own problems, and possibly raise improvements on that specific project. So yes, open source is the way to go, specifically for the things that you guys are doing. It should benefit the world. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you very much, and we definitely agree. Thank you so much for joining us today, Douglas. It was a pleasure to have you and Fortinet work with us on this project.
My pleasure, Maggie. See you soon.